Hello, everybody. Welcome to a very, very special edition of Sportsbeat. Next to me, of course, my co-host Paul Overjergy, the editor of the San Bernardino Sun. Paul, good to have you again. Jim Loughran, our analyst, second year with Sportsbeat. Jimmy, good to have you. Fellas, what I'm going to talk about is an event that took place earlier in this month in December. On December 5th at Chaffey College, at Southern California Bowl, matching San Bernardino Valley College's undefeated team going against El Camino College, one of the powerhouses in all the United States in junior college. And San Bernardino came out on top 27-21, capping an undefeated season, only its second one in 10 years. And what I felt, in my opinion, as far as being involved as a trainer, one of the most exciting events, especially without a doubt the most exciting football game that I've ever been involved with. And what I want to talk about today, fellas, and I wanted to bring it up, is what Carl Farrell told me the other day. Was he made a statement about that players make great coaches, not so much coaches making great players. That's his theory in life. And I felt that this sophomore group that Valley College had this year really, really was a very, very special group. And I wanted to get their perspective. Let me give you some statistics. This sophomore group never lost a game at home in 2 years, never lost in their blue uniforms, and won back-to-back championships, and wound up just last week being named the national champions in small junior college, community college in the United States. Some incredible feats, and we're very lucky to have with us 5 of those members of the San Bernardino Valley College team. We're going to get a chance to get their perspective on this past terrific season. To our right over here, we have a wide receiver, Eddie Pratt, number 11 from Alabama. Eddie, good to have you here.
Nice to be here, Mike.
An all-conference receiver, if I may add, and to my immediate, well, actually, that's my right. This is my left. To my left, we have Craig Newsom, cornerback from Eisenhower High School, all-conference, second year in a row, all-state, and very happy to say he was named the All-American at junior college at his position. Craig, good to have you here.
Nice to be here, Mike.
Fellas, you know, let me start with Craig. Craig, you really had a disappointing ball game last year against Santa Monica College when Valley lost, and you were the first one to admit to that. You really turned things around this year and just had yourself just a phenomenal season. Everybody always patterns himself after somebody. You told me earlier, who do you pattern yourself after as far as somebody that you look up to in your position?
Well, Mike, I look up to Ronnie Lott, you know, because he's a great player, you know, and
former Eisenhower graduate, by the way.
Yeah. And, you know, well, I just look up to him because, you know, well, he's an idol, like, you know, to me.
You think of Lott in terms of hitting people or trying to make people know you're aware that you're out there?
Yeah, exactly. That's it.
Well, at times I've seen you play, it looks like you enjoy hitting. Are you hitting?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
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 You got great technique as a tackler, and you are a good hitter, and it seems like you enjoy doing that out there.
Yeah, well, I do.
Good.
On the other side of the coin, Eddie, you were a former quarterback. You came to us as a quarterback at Valley College. Did you feel, and you turned receiver this year, you were one of the wide receivers, and they almost call you Eddie Pratt, the touchdown maker, because he's the kind of guy that, you know, one of those people that seems to get the ball rolling. You know, when one of those guys who catches a pass, and for some reason all the receivers, you know, they just turn the light on and they go, you know, they start getting hot. Eddie, my question is, being a quarterback, a former quarterback, did that give you any kind of an advantage? Did it help you appreciate the role of the receiver any better than, let's say, the average receiver?
Yeah, it did. You know, coming in as a quarterback and expecting to play quarterback during the spring, you know, I knew all the receivers, and they just made my job easy, Maxwell's job easy, you know. But by being a receiver, I just knew my guys, and I knew what I had to do when I changed over as a receiver. So that's, you know, it was quite easy.
Mike, one of the things I thought was important on this team is that the coaching staff was able to convince guys who were featured running backs, a quarterback, that wide receiver is where the action is on this team offensively, in a lot of cases. And so you look at all the talent people out there, and you don't have wide receivers or guys in high school just caught the ball. You have guys who knew what to do with the ball in the open field. I think Eddie showed that, Tony Gator showed that, Johnny Thomas, Kerry Garrett. These guys all were in the backfield in high school.
Former running backs that were converted to wide receiver. I guess what Carl said is he liked recruiting the athletes, and he felt the best athlete on a high school team, on the average, is a running back. And that was just, obviously it worked.
Yeah, every time I've seen Eddie touch the football, it seemed like he scored. Eddie. Talk a little bit about going from quarterback to wide receiver. How was that transition, and did it make it easier because you knew the routes and you knew, something about those things?
Yeah, it was easy. Coach Farrell, he didn't really say nothing to me. He just told me to go over here during practice, then go over here during practice. So, I
So
basically
doing a little bit of everything, huh?
Right. I basically knew, what I had to do, and I guess we needed another receiver at the beginning of the year. I didn't question, his coaching. I just did it. So it was quite easy.
Being a team player.
Does Coach Farrell kind of has a perception, at least in the media, that here's a guy who really knows his stuff. Does he project that to the players? If Coach Farrell says that, red is green, are you likely to believe him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe him.
Blind faith, huh?
Yeah, I believe him.
Well, I tell you, a lot of emphasis was placed on the offense, but Craig, and to get into the bowl game, okay, you guys were facing a team, El Camino, that was ranked second in the United States in statistical categories on offense, just a juggernaut of an offense. What was the feeling when you guys were on the field? You kicked off to them. What was the feeling after you stopped them in the first series of downs? I mean, did you get a feeling that you perhaps, hey, maybe we can play with these guys and we can make the difference here?
Yeah. Well, I felt, after that series, we can, go out and, play, with them. And, we have the athletes too, to play with, just about anybody. So, we just went out there and played, and we played hard, and we got the victory.
And your defense seems like every game, fellas, seems like one thing about Valley College, the offense got a lot of the accolades, but this defense just seemed to get better and better and better. And if you look at the correlation with the professional level, the Super Bowl teams, all the teams that have won it most of the time has been because of the great defense in the big games. And I felt that was the difference.
I got a chance to see him from the first game, Mike, against Riverside, and it kind of progressed throughout the season. And I noticed the defense getting better, and also a big difference in the specialty teams from the first of the year to the end of the year.
Yeah.
So both of those areas, the offense was great the whole year, but those two areas vastly improved from what I saw.
How about El Camino's defense, Eddie? I mean, were you guys impressed with what you saw of them? I mean, without being nice, obviously, they gave up 41 points against Mount Sac, and I'm sure you guys feasted on those films, those game films. Did you guys have a feeling you could attack them and actually do the things that you felt comfortable with offensively?
Well, like Craig was saying, we could play with anyone. And the key was getting back to the basics. They had a good defense. I respected their defense. But our offense can match up against anyone. And once we get back to the basics, I think we can go a long ways, which we did.
Speaking of anyone, you never got a shot at Saddleback, which ended up on top of like every poll just ahead of you. Would you like to have seen a 12-game season, play them somewhere, anywhere?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Most definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, had you seen them? Did you guys ever go look at them? Did you hear anything about them?
Well, I think I seen film on them once. I wasn't too impressed. I felt, like we could beat anyone, and I wasn't too impressed.
So it's basically the feeling that you guys had. It's not so much you respect your opponents, but it's feeling that it's basically if you took care of your own business, everything would take care of itself.
Yeah, correct.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Craig, speaking of taking care of business, I have a question I want to ask you. I mean, what made you think really a better ball player this year as opposed to last year? Because your turnaround was just phenomenal. I mean, you had a good year last year, but this year you're just phenomenal. I mean, you're just one of the top corners in the United States right now, very highly recruited. You just came back from a recruiting trip at the University of Tennessee with the Volunteers. We were recruiting you quite heavily. I mean, what made the difference?
Well, Mike, I just worked hard, on the off season, on my drills, lifted. Just, basically I just worked hard at it, and then that, gets better. So.
Was it all physical though, or was it a lot of it mental too? I know when I played college baseball, that first year to that second year was like night and day.
Yeah.
Tell me about your mental side.
Well,
Stump. Very well. You asked someone a question you cannot answer.
I'm nervous.
No problem, no problem. No,
I'm nervous, man.
There had to be a big difference, though, is what I was getting at. I mean, between your freshman year and your sophomore year.
Yeah.
Is it mental adjustment, really? Is that?
No. You know, it's just.
So it was mostly physical.
Yeah, you know, working hard at it, you know, on the drills and, you know, so forth. You know, the coaching, you know, so I'm at the point now where, you know, well, I feel that I'm, you know, probably the best cornerback in the country. But
Got to go out there and prove it.
yeah,
though.
yeah, true.
Well,
Gotta
fellas,
go
you
out there
know,
and prove it.
it's a shame that we could sit here and just talk to you forever. We have to move on. We got a couple more of your teammates that are coming out in the next segment. You know, I want to thank you very much, Eddie. You know, what a great year you had. You know, you really, like they say, you're the straw that stirs the drink for the wide receivers. You got things rolling. That's what Carl Farrell said. Hey, get this guy the ball, let him make one catch. Everybody else will get going. Craig, a super year. You know, I know your defense held their own against El Camino, did a super job, and you guys had a wonderful year. And I always remember you from returning that interception against Riverside City College, because what went through your mind, you're 106 yards, Chris Craig Newsom running out of gas, and he kept thinking of Chris Birdman. He could go the way. We never forget that. Thank you, Craig.
Thank you, Mike.
Hey, we appreciate it. We'll be right back with Sportsbeat with a couple more members of the San Bernardino Valley College undefeated National Small College champions after this.
Excuse me. Do you wear your safety belt?
Why, no. I don't wear my safety belt.
Thank you.
You could learn a lot from a dummy. Buckle your safety belt.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to our special holiday edition of Sportsbeat, honoring the national champions of San Bernardino Valley College football team. To my left, we got a couple other players from that team. Wide receiver Johnny Thomas from San Bernardino High School. Number 2, Johnny, good to have you here. Appreciate you coming.
Nice to be here, Mike.
And here we have to my right, Trent Nave from Hesperia High School, a linebacker, number 31. Trent, I'm going to start with you. You know, you've been categorized as a player in that great defense at Valley College that was, and I don't mean to be insulting, they said, well, he's too slow. He's not as athletically gifted as the rest of the defensive team, but he's probably the smartest ball player on the whole defensive staff. I mean, would that be a good way of describing you?
Yeah.
Not being insulting, I'm just saying the book on you is that you have a great nose for the football, that you really you always seem to be in the right place at the right time. Would that categorize your game? Would that be a
for
fair?
the most part. I don't make all the big plays, but I make the ones that need to be made.
Speaking of being in the right place at the right time, in that bowl game, Valley was ahead 27-21, and El Camino was driving down to the 15-yard line at 4th and 10 on about the 20, and you came up with a sack on the second to last play of the game. What was the call there, and then what was going through your mind when you?
Well, it was a call to blow where I blitzed from the outside, and I just was rushing in and I saw him, and I didn't want to make the big hit where he could get the ball off or anything from arching his back or something, so I just make sure I smothered it.
I was wondering what it's like to come unblocked, see the quarterback, know he doesn't see you, know you're going to get there. I mean, what goes through your mind that fraction of a second?
It's you know you have him. So, I mean, everything's going through your mind already. You already got him, you won the game, it's just an awesome feeling.
It certainly set off a major celebration on the sideline as soon as you and he hit the turf together.
Yeah.
A little premature, too.
Yeah, 15-yard penalty, as I recall.
You know what's funny is that their quarterback at El Camino had been sacked. They have an outstanding offensive line. He had been sacked twice in previous 6 games, and San Bernardino Valley College sacked him 6 games alone. I mean, actually recorded sacks, not to mention the rushes, etc.
Mike, it seemed like the Valley College defense and in particular was putting pressure on the kid the whole day. Does that come from films or do the coaching staff, the game plan they put together, obviously worked effectively. Did they get that right from the films or talking to other teams, or how do they go about putting together a game plan for that?
Well, all year long we've been kind of blitzing, stunning towards the quarterback, make them, we pressure them, they can't operate the way they're supposed to. So, we just kept to the same thing a little bit and did the same thing.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it type of thing.
Yeah.
Just keep doing the same thing.
Well, from what I could tell in the bowl game, the front four put so much pressure on almost by themselves that any kind of blitz was basically breaking the back of the offensive line. They had so much to handle with your big guys up front.
Yeah. We have an excellent front four.
Now we move to the other side offensively. Johnny, you seem like all year you made the big play. Okay, you're a big play receiver. It seems like what your type of game is that you will catch the ball and then you seem like you are able to bust it for another 15, 20, 30 yards. Case in point, you made it just what I thought was one of the biggest plays of the game when Valley College fell behind and you had just suffered a whiplash. You were a little bit dinged up from just a terrific hit when you caught a ball down the middle. And you came back, in the very first play, you caught a swing, sort of like a quick pass, quick out, and you went and you started cutting back, almost cutting back yardage, and then all of a sudden you saw some opening and took off. Is this something that you just, is it something that comes natural to you? Is it because you're running back ability, have been a running back in high school, or is it something that you study the game films and know what kind of speed you have to deal with in each instance?
Well, first of all, let me tell you, our offense is very cocky. And when we touch the ball, the only thing we think is score. And that's all I thought.
Is that your first priority? You really think you can score every time you touch it?
Every time we touch the ball, score. We have 4 of the best wide receivers and two quarterbacks that you can ever have. So while we're on the field, the reason why we have so many touchdowns and so many yards is every time we touch the ball, we're going to score. We're going to score. We're going to try to score. Do our best to score. Came from the coach. He made us cocky.
So it's kind of like a confident type
Yes.
cockiness. You can, well, let's say you're cocky
Yes.
if you can't back it up. But if you
Yes.
can back it up, that's really more
And
confidence.
that's why we know we could back it up, because we show it on the field.
Now, going back to Coach Farrell, who's your offensive
Yes.
coordinator, he talks about a read and react type receivers. In other words, it's not like a set pattern. You're going to run a post or you're going to run a curl, whatever. You actually read with the corner if he's playing you man-to-man or giving you some cushion, and you actually communicate with your quarterback. Is that how it works?
Yes, well, actually, I don't think any defense can stop our offense, because it's like you said, the read type offense. A
Run,
quarterback,
shoot,
if they run 21, which is too deep and man coverage, our quarterback is taught to raise up and hit the slot receivers. So whatever happens on defense, we still have something to beat it.
What happened in that game? You guys are up 14-0. Looks like you're going to cruise in. Maybe the defense is going to pitch a shutout. And the offense seems to just go into the doldrums. Early on, you guys are throwing a lot of the little slant passes like the one.
Yes.
And then it seemed like it worked for 2 quarters.
Well,
What
because
happened there?
the quarterback really lost his mental strength. And, that's from our coach not, being able to talk to him, because the coaches usually talk to us, before they prepare us for the game. So the coach didn't really talk to the quarterback, which really blocked his lack of playing, and, he just fell apart.
Johnny, talk a little bit about the El Camino. They ran some strange schemes. I've never seen them before.
Well, see, they tried to really play us in bump, which really wouldn't happen if we were, the quarterback was reading us right. But the quarterback, like I say, had a bad game, and on a
So
couple,
did they try to run a lot of defenses just to confuse you guys?
Yes, but we weren't fooled at all.
Didn't look like it.
Just bad, on the quarterback's behalf, but he's a great quarterback.
When you, on the play that Mike was referring to earlier, and my notes here, it was a 36-yard play, and it was like a 4-yard pass and about a 32-yard run. But if we put all the lateral yardage in, it's probably like
330 yards.
I mean, does it ever occur to you that coaches are probably saying, we got to run east-west here, not north-south? I mean, you probably were behind the line of scrimmage at one point in that play.
Yes. Well, at that time, I was thinking, after coming from that hit, I was thinking, well, I'm going to go out and make the big play. That's all I can do. We're behind. I have to make the big play. And I went out there and caught the ball and turned it up.
That play took them down to the 9-yard line. They scored one play later.
It's amazing, it's like here El Camino drives, and they score the go-ahead touchdown with 8 minutes or so to go in the game, and Valley comes right back, kickoff return, the big play by Johnny Thomas, and then Whitaker on a pitch and score. And I thought that really mentally just turned the entire aura of the game, the entire, momentum really switched. Then your defense made the great stand, and then Valley got the ball back again, and then they scored to take the lead, and then of course that led up to that gigantic play. that you had, you know, defensively, you know, that how many times have you seen that tape? I'm just going to ask you. I got to ask you this.
I've seen it about maybe 10 to 20 times, you know, in between there somewhere. I lost count already.
What about at night? With that night when you went home, did you actually have a hard time sleeping? I mean, did you have, like, did you see that in your mind over and over in slow motion again?
Well, I slept good, but I was dreaming about it all night, just repeating it all night long.
Terrific. Well, I tell you, that was just, talk about Alcoa. Can we say the sponsor here? Okay, anyways. Alcoa fantastic finishes. Boy, that was definitely one. You know, we want to thank both of you fellas. I know you're headed for a successful 4-year career. Johnny, I know you still have some decisions to make. You've been recruited by University of Oklahoma. Who else can you fill us in?
Cal Berkeley, Arizona State.
And you're also a very successful track athlete now.
Yes.
Is that something you're going to pursue in college as well?
I might just, you know, work out to build my speed back up and just kind of lay off until I really get my football career settled.
Sure.
To where, you know, I might get the pros and then pursue it again.
Is the NFL one of your goals?
Yes.
College degree first, though, right?
College degree, you can always come back, but I'll pursue the degree first.
Absolutely, good one. How about yourself, Trent? What do you got lined up for you? Anybody looking at you?
A few schools, but they're hesitating to call. I got to wait around a little bit for them.
Well, I get the feeling that they will be calling. Fellas, thank you so much. You know, super year. And when we come back, we're going to bring you the most valuable player of the Southern California Bowl, Tony Gator. We'll be right back.
To keep a friend from drinking and driving, just explain things to
It's
her.
6:45 and our party's at 9 and I still got shopping to do. But if you drive, you'll have to drop me off and pick me up and then I'll be late and you won't be ready. So I'm going to drive and drop you off and then I'm going to do all the things I need to do and I'll be back in time to help you set things up. Okay? All right.
Take the keys, call a cab, take a stand. Friends don't let friends drive drunk.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome to our final segment of Sportsbeat. And boy, what a rare treat. Does this guy talk? Does he actually exist? Is he really Superman? Does he actually just put on a uniform on game day? We have with us Tony Gator, the most valuable player of the Southern California Bowl of San Bernardino's victory against El Camino. Tony, it's a pleasure to have you here on Sportsbeat. And the first question I want to ask you is, Coach Farrell didn't use you at tailback at the beginning of the year. You were a wide receiver, a wideout. Were you the one that came up to Coach Farrell and talked to him? And can you tell us a little bit about how that went?
Well, I wanted to play. You know, it was hard for me just to switch to receiver and everything because coming out of high school, I was a running back. And I didn't know what I was doing at receiver. I didn't know how to run the right routes and everything and catching the ball. And I seen, you know, the talent that we had. You know, it was good talent and all, but I felt like I could run the ball too, you know. But, you know, he felt like I was too small and everything. But he finally gave me a chance and everything. He gave me a chance, and I did okay, I guess. But,
did you bug him to death?
well, I did. I did bother him a lot.
Gee, I can never figure that out. What is your favorite position on the field now that you experienced both as a tailback and a wideout? You know, do you have any preference, or you pretty much feel
I like to
comfortable?
play running back.
Running back?
He'd be more involved in the game. But, you know, as I was playing receiver, I left the game, you know, with no injuries. But when you play running back, you leave it with a few nicks. But I like running back. You know, you get more into the game, be involved more.
Well, Coach Farrell, I think, put it pretty well. It was like week 7, week 8 that you finally got to play any kind of significant time at running back.
Week 8.
And in basically 4 games, he had 500 yards. As Coach Farrell said, some genius I am. It took him that long to figure it out.
9.9 yards a carry or something like that, the average? Holy cow.
Almost 9 yards a carry.
What I was impressed by in the bowl game was that you scored basically 3 different types of touchdowns. You had 3 of the 4 touchdowns. The first was kind of you got hit about 5 times. It was almost a power run, like something you expect from someone large. The second was, I think, pretty much a design play where you just jetted past someone. And the third was one of those, like Marcus Allen in the Super Bowl, where nothing's there and you came back. Can you remember those plays fairly clearly in your mind?
Yeah, well, the first one, I believe they thought they tackled me, but they didn't. They were just hitting and everything, and they didn't wrap up. And I didn't believe, you know, I just slipped through and I walked in the end zone. And the second one, you know, their linebacker was just guessing because, you know, when I came in the game in the backfield, half of the time I did run the ball, so they're just, you know, blitzing and everything. And I just cut back on the linebacker, and it was nothing but me and the free safety, and I beat him to the end zone. And the third one, you know, we was losing everything. I said, well, I got to do something with the ball. I ran to the right. There was nothing there, so I was like, well, just turned back around, you know, and before I knew it, I was in the end zone.
We're talking about, I mean, you had an fairly impressive track career at Florida. How did that go? And what kind of times have you run in some of the sprint distances?
Well, in the 100 meters, unofficially, I ran a 10.21. And the 200 meters, I led the nation last year with a 21:01. And
we're pushing world-class times here.
Well, something like that.
Are you thinking in terms of sprinting or football as far as your
Well, I want to do
career?
both. I like to do both.
Tony, what's your plans for the future? Tell the folks a little bit about what you have in store for your future.
Well, I'd like to be able to play in the NFL one day. I'd like to be able to run the Olympics. Just do a little something like that.
Small goals.
Yeah.
Early on.
Something simple like that. Huh?
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about your style. Seems like the big guys up front just put body on body, and you pick a hole, and if you get a little daylight, you sneak through. Tell the folks a little bit about your style of running.
Well, when I be in the game, I just don't like to be touched, you know. You know, I just try, you know, just run the daylight. The first crack I see, you know, I just accelerate through it, and they say speed is power, you know, and if it's a hole, then it just come open.
Speed kills, huh?
Yeah, speed kills.
Final question, Tony. I wanted to ask you, now that you played California, Junior College California Bowl here, what's your opinion of the caliber play out here in junior college, community college?
Well, it's a lot of competition and everything. It's good football. You know, I thought it'd be, you know, harder, but it was good competition.
It's one of your goals, I'm sure one of the goals that you want to fulfill is wear that U with the green and the red, right? You're a big University of Miami fan. You're headed there after you leave your career here at Valley College. Is that correct?
Yep.
I know your family's going to be watching this, and we have to. Oh, we got to. Gosh, it's time flies. They're giving me a signal again. We got to get out of here, fellas. I mean, I know you had a million questions. Are there any last questions that you fellas want to ask Tony here before we move on here?
Are you going to be in Miami next year or the year after that?
Yeah, after that.
So you're going to be back at Valley College next year, you think?
Yeah.
I'm sure Coach Smith will be pleased by that.
My God, so is the audience. I know that your family's probably going to be watching a tape of this when you go back to Florida, and I'm sure the only thing I can say to them is thanks. A lot. Tony, you're one heck of a ball player and tremendous performer. I know you're a communications major. Have you ever considered stand-up comedy as one of your...
No.
You will. Talk to me. I'll give you some hints. Well, anyways, Tony, thank you very much for being here. We appreciate it. Fellas, gosh, happy holidays. You know, I won't see you again till next year.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
We thank you for all your help, and this has been really a terrific show for a terrific team. And that does it for Sportsbeat. Where do I look? Here I go. Hey, that does it for Sportsbeat. We want to thank all the members of the San Bernardino Valley College National Championship football team, and as well as my co-hosts Paul Overjergy and Jim Loughran. I wish you a very, very Merry Christmas. I'll get it out one of these days.
A Merry Christmas.
Very, very Merry Christmas. You know, I'll probably doing that 10 times. And a Happy New Year, and we'll see you next year on Sportsbeat. For everybody here on the set, this is Mike Sola speaking. So long, everybody.
need to do to get to you.
Okay. It's a little more complicated with learning disabled than other disabilities, because other disabilities, obviously, if you come in with your legs amputated, it's clear that there's a disability, or if you're with a seeing eye dog or require an interpreter. So that's observable. In some cases, doctors can identify it. But with a learning disability, since we don't know the cause of the learning problem, we can't ask a doctor to identify it. So we use the psychological model which means we do testing, psychological testing. We do testing of aptitude and achievement, and we take the composite of the scores and look at them, and if they fit the typical pattern that we see with the learning disabled, then they become eligible. And that process is a statewide process. It is uniform in all the community colleges in the state of California.
Okay, so this is a state eligibility system.
Right.
Okay.
So any student who qualifies at Crafton or San Bernardino Valley would qualify at any other community college in the state of California.
Can they transfer around once they're in the program?
Yes, they can. Once they're determined eligible, they are always eligible for services. And that eligibility is sometimes also transferable to our California State University system and the University of California.
If they're going to go on and get the four-year degree.
Right.
Okay. How many students are you currently serving? How deep is the program right now?
Well, I serve about 60 students per semester.
Isn't it?
Yes, for one person it ends up being quite a few because they do demand a lot of time.
How large is your staff? Is it just you, or do you have?
Well, it's myself. I have a paraprofessional, Mrs. Gloria Paulus, and we have a secretary, and then there's one other professional, Mr. Marty Lacerio, but he is primarily responsible for working with the other disability groups, the hearing impaired, visually impaired.
Basically have two people to deal with the learning disabled then.
Right, right.
Mm-hmm. What have you seen as the success rate of your program? Have you got some numbers to throw out, some percentages, if they mean something?
Well, I don't have numbers. I mean, I would say that probably they are as successful or more successful than in terms of the number of people entering my program as compared to the college, if you looked at it proportionately. More successful because they have all the support.
I was going to say, I would guess that a person going to that extent to reach their goal would be a little bit more pushing for it. They're a little more active.
But it's the same, you know, the same things happen with my students and others. If the motivation's not there, they don't attend class, you know, they lose out. If they don't follow through on what's required of them in terms of assignments, they you know, lose out. So the problems that my students have in terms of those issues are very much the same as the regular population. It's just that there's a more organized support system for them. So a lot of times if the motivation's there, then they can be successful, and they do go on to the four-year schools. They do transfer, they receive AA degrees, and they do meet their goals. We can't necessarily provide that for everyone because the college does not provide every kind of program. And in some cases the student doesn't have the kinds or has severe enough disability that